Really quick, if you haven't seen my most recent episode on Jaheira, Friend of the Forest, make sure you check that one out at some point because my goodness is this commander, well, I don't think there's any other way to say it, overpowered. But that being said, this episode is on a commander that a lot of people are sleeping on and that is incredibly powerful itself. So, with all that said, let's jump into it. So, Vhal, and my apologies by mispronouncing that name, Candlekeep Researcher is a 2/3 human wizard with vigilance that costs 3 and a blue. It has tap at amount of colorless equal to Vhal Candlekeep Researcher's toughness. This mana can't be spent to cast spells from your hand. And on top of that, choose a background. Now, if you aren't sure exactly what backgrounds are, I have an entire episode on that, so make sure you check that episode out. I think it's just called What Are Backgrounds or What in the World Are Backgrounds or something like that. But essentially what this is going to let us do is pick a card, which is in a legendary enchantment background that lets us add an additional color to our commander's color identity. If, we pick one that's, one of the other 4 colors, and it can give our commander an additional effect. So although this commander does look like it's a monocolored commander, it is a 2-colored commander, and yeah, that can be very impactful and give us access to a lot of powerful cards that we can really utilize with this commander. Now, with that being said, let's get back to what this commander actually does. So, just at a base level, our commander is essentially a mana dork that can tap for 3 colorless mana. Now, that mana that we tap for can't be utilized to cast spells from our hand, but that's okay. There are plenty of other fantastic things that we can do with this, and there are actually kind of ways to get around that. And of course, on top of that, again, because this is a variable amount that we are going to be able to add, with our commander, if we can increase our commander's toughness, which of course is incredibly easy, and there are plenty of ways to do it very efficiently and very quickly, well, we can make an absurd amount of mana very quickly with this commander. I mean, I'm talking about 10 plus mana very easily without even breaking a sweat. And of course, because of that, there are some really broken things that we can do with this commander. Again, even though we can't utilize the mana for spells, who cares? Or again, I should say spells from our hand, because yeah, we could utilize that mana for, flashback. We could use it for jumpstart, spells we're casting from our graveyard, or, spells we cast from exile, etc., etc., etc. But mostly what we can really utilize this for are abilities. And like I mentioned before, we have ways to essentially utilize this mana for spells that are even in our hand, or, ways to turn this mana into something else. We'll talk about that right after I remind you that there is a link in the description below in case you're interested in building around this commander. So yeah, that link's got the entire list of the cards that I talked about on this episode. So if you're interested in building around this commander, make sure you check that list out sooner rather than later. And with that being said, let's jump into the card so I can show you why you should not be sleeping on this commander. So first up, as I mentioned, it is incredibly easy for us to increase our commander's toughness. And we've got plenty of ways, even just in blue, and we're going to have access to another color as well, to go search for equipment like, Blackblade Reforged, Slagworm Armor, and Mirror Shield. Blackblade Reforged says equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each land you control and has equipped legendary creature 3. And yeah, again, just even on equipment, we can show how our commander's mana can be utilized. Look, pay for that equip cost very easily. And again, even just say we are doing this on, curve, getting lands out, getting our commander out on turn 4, next turn, putting the Blackblade Reforged on our commander. That is going to be +5/+5 to our commander with 5 lands in play. And of course, that can get a lot higher. So that would be 8 mana from our commander tapping then, just with that. And of course, Slagworm Armor can be even quicker than that, an equipment that costs 1, and it gives equipped creature +0/+6, and only costs equip 3. So, just with this attached to our commander, that is 9 mana on tap. And of course, also make sure you're considering other kinds of equipment like, Mirror Shield that says equipped creature gets +0/+2 and has hexproof. And also, something about Death Touch, but ignore that. Basically, hexproof and +0/+2. So yeah, 2 extra mana and protection on our commander. A fantastic card for this commander. Now, as I mentioned before, there are certain ways that we can get around our commander's, let's call it a limitation again, of only making colorless mana and also only being able to use that mana on, non-spells from our hand. I said that in a weird way, but you know what I mean. So the first cards that I'm going to help demonstrate this with are with lands like Cascading Cataracts and Nykthos. Cascading Cataracts has pay 5, tap, add 5 mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool. So with our commander's mana, again, we can generate a ton of it as I just demonstrated, and when we do, we can utilize 5 of that mana to just tap this, and then we can utilize this mana, again, in whatever combination of colors we want, to help us either cast spells or, again, make mana of whatever colors we need for abilities to, activate them. And of course, Nykthos is an expensive land, but just another good way to kind of show off how this commander can be utilized. Pay 2, tap, choose a color, add to your mana pool, an amount of mana of that color equal to devotion to that color. Again, just, utilize 2 of your commander's mana. That is nothing for your commander. 2 colorless mana, utilize that and turn it into something else. And of course, we've got access to a ton of budget cards. I mean, these cards cost pretty much nothing, and they are incredible with this commander. Stonework Pack Beast, Prismite, and Signpost Scarecrow, just to name a few. Now, each of these essentially have the exact same text, and they work incredibly with this commander. Pay 2, add 1 mana of any color. So this is basically mana filtering. You can utilize these effects to essentially just dump, again, a ton of mana thanks to your commander into these, and then just say, okay, for every 2 mana, I just get 1 back, but it's of any color, and then I can utilize that mana however I want to. You are no longer under that restriction of, oh, you can't utilize it to cast spells. Yeah, you can now because you're, filtering it through this essentially and utilizing it elsewhere. So your commander can be especially impactful when utilizing abilities, especially, generic mana abilities, especially ones that are repeatable like these. And yeah, thanks to cards like these, there are some broken things that you can do with this. But really quick, let's talk about 2 other examples when it comes to mana filtering with cards like Gemstone Array and then Chromatic Aura, which, yes, again, is a pretty expensive card, but I just need to bring it up because if I don't, people are going to comment below and say, why didn't you talk about that one? Well, here you go. Gemstone Array has pay 2, put a charge counter on Gemstone Array, remove a charge counter from it, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So this is essentially like a mana storage, and yeah, all we have to do is tap our commander for a ton of colorless mana, and then put all of that into this and say, all right, we just got a bunch of charge counters on this that we can utilize whenever we need to for anything. Again, it can be spells, it can be abilities, whatever we need to. And then Chromatic Aura is slightly different in that it says you may spend mana as though or mana of any color. I mean, and it also has, tap for 5 colorless, which again is kind of funny because it just can be any color essentially. And by paying 5 and tapping, draw a card for each color among permanents you control. So sure, it's got those things. The important part is, though, is that you can essentially utilize your commander's colorless mana as if it were mana of any color. It does not matter. Now, obviously, that still does not allow you to, utilize that for spells in your hand, but still, it can help you do some incredibly powerful and even broken things. So now let's talk about these ways that mana filtering can be very, very impactful with cards like Penmans Aura, Freed from the Real, and Crab Umbra. Penmans Aura does a lot of things, so here we go. Pay a blue, untap enchanted creature. Pay a blue, enchanted creature gains flying until end of turn. Pay a blue, enchanted creature can't be the target of spells abilities until end of turn. And pay a generic mana, enchanted creature gets +1/-1 or -1/+1 until end of turn. Now, with this commander, I mean, okay, technically all 4 are relevant, but, the flying isn't really all that relevant, but basically, the other 3 are incredibly impactful. First up, let's actually just start from the bottom up with that generic mana ability. Enchanted creature gets +1/-1 or -1/+1 until end of turn. Yeah, we're going to love that -1/+1 again and again and again. Just keep activating it. Because it really doesn't matter if you just keep activating this and just keep getting your commander's power lower and lower and lower. You can go negative with that even. It doesn't matter. This allows your commander to get a ton of toughness, which again translates into a ton of mana. And let's just keep going up, though. Enchanted creature can't be the target of spells or abilities this turn. So, yeah, essentially Shroud. And yeah, that can be incredibly impactful in protecting our commander, especially if we're trying to combo. And that's where we get to the combo, because again, by just paying a blue, untap enchanted creature. Now, even without any other pieces, just by, being able to pump our commander's toughness, and by being able to, utilize, our blue mana that we do have, from our lands, etc., 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 we can make an absurd amount of mana with our commander that, again, we can utilize for abilities and other things. That being said, if we just have one of those ways to filter mana like I talked about, this is infinite mana. So whether it's Stonework, Pack Beast, Prismite, Signpost, Scarecrows, etc., 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 you can make infinite mana of all colors without your commander even having to be pumped in toughness, but you can if you really want to. Because again, you tap for 3 colorless, you use 2 of it to, filter it, and then you utilize that as blue mana to pay to untap enchanted creature. Then you do it again and again and again. So each time you're essentially generating 1 extra colorless mana, which again, was going to be infinite at a certain point, and then you can just dump all that back into your mana filtering for all colors and infinite mana, and again, you can utilize that mana to cast spells from your hand too. And of course, this isn't the only way to do it. I mean, Freed from the Real is another card. It has pay a blue, tap enchanted creature, but we don't care about that. Pay a blue, untap enchanted creature. So yeah, basically the exact same first part of Penmans Aura. And then Crab Umbra has pay 2 and a blue, untap enchanted creature, and Totem Armor. So we do need our commander's toughness to be a little bit higher if, again, we're going to be going in that route with the mana filtering, but really not all that much higher. Essentially, we need our commander to have, what, 5 toughness to go infinite with this in a mana filterer? So, again, and this is just the tip of the iceberg on ways to go infinite with this commander, because we're going to be jumping into some other ways to do so. Now, some much easier ways to go infinite do not even include mana filtering, and yeah, Umbral Mantle is decently expensive, but yeah, equip creature as pay 3, untap, this creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So you literally just need this and your commander, and you've got infinite mana, infinite colorless mana that you can only spend, outside of casting things, but still. There are plenty of things that you can dump your mana into that we'll talk about here in a bit, but yeah, you basically just, tap for 3, untap, your commander gets +2/+2, so now you're tapping for 5, you do it again and again and again. That's infinite power and toughness for your commander. And then Sword of the Parent says, as long as equipped creature is tapped, tap creatures you control get +2/+0. As long as the equipped creature is untapped, untap creatures you control get +0/+2. On top of that, by paying 3, you can tap or untap equipped creature. So you essentially just have to generate 4 mana to be able to do this infinitely. And again, yeah, quite easy. And then Staff of Dominion is broken with a lot of things, but yeah, with this commander as well. Pay 1 to untap it, or pay 2 to tap, you gain 1 life. Pay 3 to tap, to untap target creature. Pay 4 to tap target creature. Pay 5 to tap, to draw a card. So if you've got 5 mana from your commander, you can pay to both untap the staff and untap your commander over and over and over again as many times as you want. And then, of course, from there, you can also gain infinite life, tap down as many creatures as you want, and draw your entire library if you really want to. This next one is kind of strange, but funny. So Cogwork Assembler is a 2/3 assembly worker that has pay 7, create a token that's a copy target artifact. That token gains haste, exile at the beginning of the next end step. Now, this combo actually works with a couple of artifacts, but the main one that I want to talk about is Corridor Monitor, a 1/4 construct that has, when it enters the battlefield, untap target artifact or creature you control. So, all you need is for your commander to be able to tap for 7 mana, and, well, you can just make an infinite number of Corridor Monitors because you're going to pay 7, you're going to make a copy of Corridor Monitor. It comes into play, you untap your commander, then you do it again, and again, and again, and again. Those Corridor Monitors, those little 1/4s, are all hasty, so you just swing out with all of them and take out all of your opponents. Now, obviously, also, if you have 8 mana that you're tapping with your commander, you also have infinite colorless mana again, if you've got a way to filter it. Cool, infinite mana of all colors as well. But yeah, you probably don't need that if you've got infinite 1/4s just swinging at your opponents. Now, there actually is another way for you to combo with Cogwork Assembler and with something like Liquid Metal Torque or Liquid Metal Coating. With each of them, you can essentially tap them to make your commander into an artifact until end of turn. So again, if your commander is tapping for 8+ mana, you then just tap for 8. You pay 7 into that Cogwork Assembler, and you make a token copy of your commander. The legend rule applies, obviously, so you sacrifice the actual commander, and then your other token, now has haste, so you just utilize that again, and again, and again, and again. So, of course, infinite colorless mana, and also, if you've got infinite, ETBs or LTBs going on from other things and triggering, there you go. Or in a somewhat simpler way, we can also combo with either Liquid Metal Torque and Liquid Metal Coating and Voltaic Construct. Voltaic Construct has pay 2, untap target artifact creature. So, very simply, just turn your commander into an artifact creature by tapping one of these two, and then, hooray! Tap your commander for 3 mana. You can tap for much more, but yeah, 3 mana. And then use 2 of that to untap your commander. Then do it again and again and again. Yeah, I am telling you, please do not sleep on this commander. And if you're playing against this commander, be wary, because again, there are plenty of ways to break it. And of course, you can utilize some broken cards with this commander very easily, like, Intruder Alarm or Thornbite Staff. Intruder Alarm says creatures don't untap during their controller's untap steps. Whenever a creature comes into play, untap all creatures. So if you've got any way to make a creature token repeatedly, and we'll get to some here very quickly, then you can just get infinite mana with your commander, and of course, infinite creatures as well. And then Thornbite Staff has pay 2, tap this creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player, and whenever a creature is put to a graveyard from play, untap this creature. So if you've got a way to keep getting creatures in play and then have them leave play, well, you can just keep untapping your commander infinitely and eventually do infinite damage as well with this, and yeah, there are a couple ways we can do this. Pentivus is definitely an example of a token generator that can really help our commander out. It enters the battlefield with 5+1 counters on it. By paying 1, remove a counter from it. Create a 1/1 colorless Pentavite artifact creature strong with flying. By paying 1, we can sacrifice a Pentavite to put a +1 counter on Pentivus. So basically, you can pay 1 to remove a counter to make a token. Then you can pay 1 to sacrifice that token to get a counter back on Pentivus. So basically, 2 mana, just keep doing this again and again and again. Obviously, with Intruder Alarm, yeah, that's infinite untaps because creatures come into play, and with Thornbite, that's infinite, untaps because creatures keep leaving play. And of course, there are other fantastic ways to make creature tokens as well. Like, Spawn Sire of Ulamog, a 7/11 Eldrazi with Annihilator 1 that has pay 4, put 2/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens on the battlefield. They have sacrifice this creature, add 1 to your mana pool. So yeah, again, this one can combo with either Intruder Alarm or with Thornbite Staff if we've got enough mana from our commander, because, well, we can just sacrifice those Eldrazi spawn for mana, and also, untap the Thornbite Staff, and they are coming into play for Intruder Alarm. Yeah, there's a lot of powerful things that you can do, and of course, with that mana that Eldrazi spawn are making, we can utilize those for spells or other things too. And then Mirror Matrix is just a great dump for our mana to make a ton of Mirror. Again, if we've got infinite mana, infinite amount of Mirror, pay 5, put a 1/1 Mirror artifact creature token into play, and again, all Mirror get +1/+1. And with these repeatable token generators, we can even go infinite with Aura of Dominion. By paying 1, we can tap an untapped creature we control to untap enchanted creature. So get this on your commander, tap your commander for a lot of mana, make a creature token again with something like Mirror Matrix, and then just use 1 of that mana as well to tap, that mirror that we just made to untap our commander to do it again, and again, and again. Yeah, like I said, plenty of ways to combo with this commander, and it can get quite scary. And speaking of scary, again, I didn't even address cards. I don't believe I didn't address any cards outside of just your commander's color identity already. I mean, again, I think every single card I talked about was either blue or, the blue color identity, just artifacts and stuff. So, of course, on top of that, on top of all this stuff, you also get to choose a background that can obviously really help your commander and help you win. I mean, Raised by Giants gives you access to green, and of course, there's plenty of broken green cards that you can help, utilize with this commander, but yeah, Raised by Giants is a great one for this commander. It says commander creatures you own have base power toughness 10/10 and are Giants initiative of other types. So this obviously can really help your commander by making it into a 10/10, and yeah, you just get to tap for now 10 mana just by having this in play. Which of course, easily meets that requirement for, the vast majority of combos. Or how about Street Urchin that gives you access to red, and it says commander creatures you own have pay 1, sacrifice another creature and artifact. This creature deals 1 damage to any target. Again, with all those ways that I talked about to make infinite creatures, yeah, you can just then, with, your infinite mana, infinite creatures, just chuck all of those at your opponent's faces and just take them out right away. Or in a similar way, you can utilize black as your color identity with Agent of the Iron Throne. It has commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. So again, with something like Pentavis, where you're just making creatures and sacrificing them again and again and again, your opponents are going to be gone very quickly. So yeah, again, a ton of great options for your background, which also gives you access to another color. And again, all the cards I mentioned in this episode, I believe, and again, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that, were within the original color identity, so you don't even need a background to make this commander really powerful. But yeah, you get that. So yeah, many players are sleeping on this commander, and they should not be. Just because this commander is making colorless mana, and just because you can't utilize that mana to cast spells from your hand, that's fine. Those are fine limitations, and again, there are ways to even get around those limitations. And there are ways to incredibly quickly tap your commander for an absurd amount of mana, and then do absurd things with all that mana. So yeah, make sure that you are not sleeping on this commander, and again, if you're looking to build around this commander, make sure you check out my link in the description below to the list of the cards that I talked about on this episode. And of course, make sure you're also on the lookout for even more exciting quick takes and spoilers coming up. And with that, the show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. We also have a ton of brand new t-shirt designs in stock, so make sure you check out those as well. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.